Welcome back to the channel, Fat Boys. Today we are starting the brand new podcast. So let's go on and start this. We're going to be talking about the brand new Sportster S from Harley-Davidson. So let's get into it. So let's go over the history of why we are talking about this. It's something really important to talk about. Going back to the Evolution motor. The Evolution motor came out in the mid 1900s, so 1950s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and it was really big for Harley-Davidson. It is considered to be what ended up saving the motor company, because the Sportster was actually a performance motorcycle of the time. But the problem with it is that it hasn't changed since then. So during the we have someone joining us right now. The Evolution motor ended up being really important for Harley-Davidson, not only because it did save the motor company, but because it did that in the ways is that it set land speed records. It ended up demolishing anything that came in its way. It was on the dirt track, it was on the roadways, it was on the flat track, it was in any way and shape and form of what motorcycles were doing. And it was beating all of the competition, which is a lot to say for Harley-Davidson, thinking on it nowadays. So now we are in 2021, and Harley-Davidson has now released the brand new Sportster S. As they would like to put it, we are now putting the S back in Sportster. So looking at the specs, it is running with the Revolution Max 1250T. My guess is that that T is standing for torque. I'm not 100% sure, but let's get into it more and find out. It has 94 foot-pounds of torque at 6,000 RPM, 121 horsepower at about 8,000 RPM, which my guess is the red line, and it's 502 pounds in running order. It has a 4-inch TFT display. It comes with cornering ABS and traction control. It comes with ride modes, the rain, road, sport, and custom modes. It comes with LED lights and cruise control, and at a starting price of only $15,000. Now, if we look and compare that to the Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250, that also comes in at 94 foot-pounds of torque and 150 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs, which is about their red line. It does come in at 534 pounds running order. It comes with a 6.8 square TFT, and also comes with cornering ABS and traction control, rider modes such as sport, road, rain, off-road, and off-road plus. It also has LED lights, cruise control, and for the base model, it comes at a starting price of $17.3 thousand. So this is interesting if we're looking at these numbers. Just doing a purely numbers base, because no one has ridden this bike yet. Only a couple people have been invited out to the press release for the bike that they are going to be riding. But no one, as of the date of me recording this, has actually ridden this motorcycle other than the few people that were in the video. So looking over these, the torque numbers are exactly the same. So why they're calling this the 1250T, I do not know. Only time is going to tell. But the big one there is the horsepower numbers are different. So it's actually 121 horsepower in the Sportster S, and it's 150 horsepower in the Pan America, which is at 9,000. In the Pan America, they actually released the horsepower at the RPM, but they haven't released it in the Sportster S. And by going through in the video, you can actually see where the red line is. And actually comparing some dyno numbers I've been able to see, looking actually at the dyno graph, you can actually see the Pan America is also making about 121, 122 horsepower at about 8,000 RPMs. So it really does make all of its power at the end of the rev limit. So because of that, I think the reason why the Sportster S is actually a lot less horsepower is purely because they have decided to limit the RPMs of the exact same motor. I do not know why they have decided to do that. I think maybe because of safety reasons or something, but we're going to get into that very soon. And then the TFT is also one of the few things that is also a little bit different. It's coming in on this nice little round circular 4-inch display, which if you have pretty much any, let's say, normal Harley-Davidson cruiser right now. That is what you are riding with, pretty much. It's only going to be just a little bit bigger, and it's going to be a full display to where you're going to be able to see everything nice and clear, and it's all going to be electronics. I think that is going to look absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and I'm very excited to see that. Now let's get into the comparison of where this has come from. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there, but just stick with me while I'm going through this. And I'm going to be generous here. I'm not going with the 883, but I'm actually going with the Iron 1200. I'm being a little bit more generous to help show the increase in power that has actually come out of this. So the Iron 1200 was running with the Evolution motor at the 1200cc mark, which was 73.4 cubic inches for us Americans. And it had only 73 foot-pounds of torque at 3,500 RPMs. That torque was much sooner, but it was also a lot lower. And also the RPMs didn't rev out as much, which is why it only made 60 horsepower at 5,400 RPM, just shy of redline. It was also a significant weight, much heavier in running order. It was 564 pounds. There was only an analog speedometer. ABS was completely optional, no rider modes or aids. It had only incandescent bulbs, no cruise control, and the starting price was at $10.2 thousand. So that's a little bit more money for the Sportster S, but you're also gaining a lot more technology, a lot more things to come with it. I think it's actually a good jump up in technology for what you're getting for the price. As the Iron 1200 was running with the Evolution motor, that is why they are calling this, how do I put it, this new marketing term of what they're wanting to bring to the world, the evolution to revolution, because they started with the Evolution motor back in the 1950s, and it's now coming to the Revolution motor. Just wanted to clarify that. Why is Harley ditching the Evolution motor in their Sportsters and now going with the Revolution motor? Well, this really is going into Euro 5 standards. I'm sure anyone that's listening to this or watching this has probably heard this from before, but it really does have to go down to Euro 5 standards. Europe is a major factor in Harley-Davidson stocks and selling points and all that good jazz that everyone over there just wants to buy Harley-Davidson. And because of Euro 5, they would not be able to sell their Sportster, which is one of their predominant sellers in that market. So in order to keep up with the times and what they were needing to do in order to compete with other competition and still be able to sell in that market, they were needing to put in their new engine in order to keep up with the times. So now they are able to stay in Europe and still able to keep a good chunk of their sales in the European and Euro-Asian market. So that's why Harley-Davidson is deciding to ditch the Evolution motor and revolutionize their new motor into the European market. So what does this mean for beginners that are wanting to start out on Harley-Davidson? Well, as of right now, it shouldn't mean a lot because most beginners, when they go out and buy a bike, they're not going to go out and buy a brand new Harley-Davidson Sportster. With the younger people that are wanting to start, it's generally too much money for them, so they're not going to go out and buy a brand new Sportster. Instead, this means they're actually probably going to go out and buy a used one, which that is going to stay completely the same. If anything, I think that means the market is going to open up even more. For the people that do have the Sportster right now, they're actually probably going to be selling it, trying to upgrade to get this new Sportster S because and I agree, because I think it's going to be so much more to offer that they're going to want, because it's going to keep them into not too different of a price jump from what they're going to be selling and what they're going to be getting from it. But further down the line, I do think this is where this is going to get interesting. When all these old Evos, and when I say old, I mean like 2008 now, when the Iron's starting to come back into play. This is when it's going to get interesting, because when those start to become too old and underkept and not well maintained and way too high of mileage, there's not going to be necessarily that good used market to where new riders are going to want to buy into it. So instead, they're going to have to start buying this new Revolution motor. So it all depends on how many people are selling that bike by the time that they are ready to upgrade, or is this bike going to be too good in order to sell to have it on the used market? Only time's going to be able to tell, but I really do think that this motor is actually going to eventually completely kill off the Evo motor, only because I think once this is gone, this is truly going to be the end of the Sportster modifications and accessibility that's going to be out there by third parties, because the Sportster is the true last engine that allows people to do simple modifications and easy and in your own garage, easy modifications to your bike. And so now getting into the next steps for Harley-Davidson. What is the next step for Harley-Davidson? The next step for Harley-Davidson, in my mind, is that they need to expand this engine. They need to make more variations of it. So far, they've only had the 1250. I think they need to go back to the last CEO's idea and actually put that in to the 950 and make the fucking Bronx. That bike looked like it was going to kick ass and take names, or kick names and take ass, whichever one you want to say. They need to really expand this engine, make the most out of it. Allow people to be able to make the most out of it and start offering more modifications into what they can do to this engine. Because when they came out with the Milwaukee 8, they pretty much already at that point, the second it came out, they had a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and a stage 4 that you could do to that. But now, really all you have is that you can just very simple things. It's really only design elements. The biggest thing that I could see coming off of the Sportster S is that all you could really do to it is put mid controls on that bike instead of forward controls, which is good for the handling, but I'm more of a fan of the forward controls. I like a little bit more of a comfort. But getting off topic, I think they really need to come out with more variations of this engine. Expand it like how they did with the Milwaukee 8. The Milwaukee 8's a great engine as itself, but they need to expand the options that are out there. And then finally, they need to, once they have more variations and they have more bikes on that, they need to then come out with another better engine with the same concept, but then make it more performance oriented, as this new Revolution motor is much more performance oriented than their regular Milwaukee 8 engine, but it needs to be even more performance oriented. Start thinking Japanese in a way. Don't be afraid to deviate from the V twin. If they started going into parallel fours and they also started going to inline fours, it would be a game changer for Harley-Davidson. It would be a complete change from anything they have ever done, but I'm calling it. I think in the next 10 years, we will start to see Harley-Davidson make other engines other than V-twins. And when they do, you heard it here first. So that's it for this. This is the first time doing the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure you come on back. I'm going to try to be getting these out to you all as much as possible. But that's it for now. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.